This is Entrepreneurs Get Visible, the podcast for people who want more impact, influence, and income. I'm Anna Parker-Naples, and I'll be sharing with you proven methods from leading entrepreneurs that help you get visible as an authority in your field. Because anything's possible when you get visible. Hey there. So today I wanted to kind of redress the balance a little bit. I shared a post yesterday about many things that I've achieved over the last 12 months. And part of that is because I've been in a mastermind environment. And so I'm very aware of what that growth and expansion has been like over that 12 months. And I guess the post had a flavour of, oh my gosh, look what I've achieved. So there's an element of that showing off a bit that I think most of us do a little bit on social media. But I believe that the best way other people can learn from other people's journeys, and the best way that I can kind of teach and educate and motivate and inspire people is to actually not just share the shiny stuff, not just share the results, not just share the kind of polished version of what I've achieved. So in this little episode I'm doing today, I want to share with you some of the things that have happened behind the scenes in that 12 months in order to allow me to step through some of the major hurdles that I've had. And I do want to flag that up. Over the last 12 months, as I've gone on to, in fact, I'll run you through exactly the growth in my business shortly, but over that 12 months, I have had some health issues. We've had some really quite serious mental health concerns within our wider family and all sorts of normal life stuff that I don't potentially share very often on social media because maybe it tells you more than my family would want you to know about their lives. And I generally respect their privacy because why wouldn't I do that? But I do believe that we all have the capacity to create results quickly. And the reason that we feel we can't is conditioning, so subconscious programming. And also because we've got ourselves into a mental, energetic state where we've become sluggish and we're so accustomed to not getting the results that we want that we think that always has to be true for us. And I actually think that when you commit firmly to something and you commit to that bigger vision and you remember that every day, that's when the magic happens. And actually, as I say that word magic, I don't mean magic. Nothing that's happened for me over the last few years of running my business, and certainly not the last 12 months, has happened by magic. It's not been luck. It's because of dogged perseverance and commitment to growth and expansion of myself and my own personal development, growth and expansion of my own connections, and growth and expansion of the financials in the business. And some of that has been challenging. And I'm going to, before I go into some of my learnings from this and some of the things that happen behind the scenes, I want to share with you what has happened for me in that 12 months. So I joined a mastermind, a very high-end mastermind for 6- and 7-figure business owners, all women coaches, but very different areas of expertise. And I knew as I was going into that group that my financials were a lot less than some of the others. I mean, some of them were already in the 7-figure mark. I very much wasn't, but I knew that I had the capacity for that. And I had the dogged determination that I was going to do my best to do everything I could to build the foundation so that I could get to a 7-figure business. Now, in that 12 months, as I joined that mastermind experience, I was at a point that I had launched the podcast membership. The podcast membership was working well. We'd launched it a couple of times. I just reached the 6-figure mark. And I was thinking that actually at that point, I was going to focus solely on the podcast membership. And I was busy writing. I've got a copy in my hands here. I was busy writing Podcast with Impact. And I knew that was going to be launched in the autumn. I'd almost finished writing it. And it was about to go over to the editing team. Now, as I came into that mastermind, there were frustrations for me about, I was noticing that I wanted to pivot and shift some of the messaging that I was putting out there. And I knew that I wanted to do it quickly. And so I decided that I was going to have essentially two funnels to my business, where one would be for people who were very early on in their business, where they would be driven towards the podcast membership. But then I would also start positioning and networking at a very high level. So with 6, 7 and 8 figure business owners, and not just here, but in the US as well. So that became part of my strategic thinking. Because I decided that actually I wanted to have a production agency, having come from a very strong audio background. And I wanted to build a model that for me was a high-end passive income model. And so we started building out the podcast agency. I'd never run anything like that before. I'd never been a manager of people before. And now I'm at a point where a year ago I had one occasional VA, and we were just starting on that journey. I now have a team of 8 people who support me in different areas of the business. And I'll describe to you what those different areas are. So the core of my business is Anna Parker-Naples Limited. And so when you see anything on my social media or my content, that's me, an assistant that I have. And then we have the and social media manager that came into the team a bit later on. And if you then see anything to do with the podcast agency, I have a production team that we work with, a design team we work with, but I do all of the consultancy. I've then built. So in the podcast agency, we now have launched almost 25 shows. I've consulted on over 25 shows, and every single one of them has got into the charts and done extremely well. Many of them are leading podcasts in the entrepreneurial space here, the US, and all over the world. And as I was building that model and testing how that system was going to work, we were growing and expanding, and that was happening really fast. So I had to learn how to manage people and how to build an online resource, an online platform, an online system that would work for all elements of the business. And that was new knowledge for me. So I had to grow and step up very quickly. The other thing then was I realized that as I was networking more with 6 and 7 and 8 figure business owners, there was a little niggle in the back of me that I knew I wasn't going to stay in podcasting forever, that 10 years from now, 5 years from now, I want a very different business. So there was a sense that while I'm in this podcast space, while it's exploding, while I've got the book, while I've got all of these avenues, that I wanted to be able to deliver more to people who were coming to me and knowing me for podcasting. And I was being approached by lots of people to offer a podcast booking service. So I decided, okay, but if we're going to do this, we're not going to do the kind of usual spammy thing that many other companies are jumping on the bandwagon. I want to do this at a high end level. So again, we've had to go away, work out the processes, bring on team to help support that. And so I now have team members who just look after that area of the business for me. So there's that goes on. And then, over the year, I've had help with Pinterest. I've had help with Facebook ads. I've had help building funnels and all sorts of things, as well as the coaching and the environments and the masterminds that I'm in. I'm actually until yesterday, I was in 3 masterminds. I'm now in 2. But behind the scenes, there have been really challenging moments. And some of those moments have been personal things that have come up. So we have had... And again, I don't like to go into too much detail because it's not my story to tell, but we've had some mental health challenges. I think lockdown really did not help for the younger generation. And that, as a mother of 3 teenagers / tween, if that's the correct word, that's been challenging. Of course, most of the year, the children have been home as well. So on the one hand, that's been challenging because they've needed a lot of emotional support and some support with online learning. We actually got so fed up with the school system not giving enough work or enough support to the children. We actually paid for them to do an online schooling system, which my eldest daughter was in anyway. But there was a lot of challenge with that. And what I started to notice as the year went on was that an old habit of mine was kicking in. And that old habit is that I get very unwell and have headaches and don't feel good for several days of the month. So on the one hand, I was thinking, well, this is a hormonal thing and I'm a woman of a certain age. But on the other hand, it was often cropping up when I had done something either really well and achieved something most people would consider unachievable or great, or when I had made a cock up in the business, when I'd done something I was really uncomfortable with and my body's way of dealing with it, my subconscious's way of dealing with it, was to allow me to disappear and to retreat for a few days. And what was interesting about that is that because of the way that my social media is set up, most people would never notice that I disappeared because I'm present everywhere. So I got to a point where I was like, I cannot stay in this pattern anymore. I cannot stay in this pattern. If I really want more success, more money, more income, I have to be able to learn to manage myself and this subconscious part that is trying to keep me safe. I need to go into why that doesn't work for me. So over the last year, I have really worked on what that health issue is about with those headaches. I've gone on some hormone treatment. I have really looked after my health. I've stepped up into exercise again. And as a result, I'm much happier. I'm much more switched on. I do still have the odd sluggish day, but I think given that I'm a very high energy person most of the time, that's fairly normal, that some days I'm not quite so switched on. And those headaches have now subsided. They are not the pattern that they were. And I want to share that with you because often that is coming up for me when things have either gone really well or when things have challenged me. Maybe I've had a difficult scenario with a team member or a client who's not happy with the way things have been done, and it pushes my buttons a little bit. And yeah, I just wanted to say that without doing that deep work, without doing that subconscious work and noticing my upper limits, noticing where I'm sabotaging my own success, because that's what I'm doing if I retreat for a few days. Without doing that work, either through trauma work or through, for me, I go back to NLP, my favorite modality. Without doing that neurolinguistic programming work to kind of work out what am I doing and why is this pattern happening, then I wouldn't have the results that I have now. The other thing along the way is that early on in that 12-month period, I was having some launches for the mastermind, for the podcast membership, where my ads didn't work and my conversion wasn't working. And so me a year before would have been delighted with the results, but me in an environment where I'm then mixing with 7-figure business owners, that was kind of uncomfortable. Why am I having launches that aren't working? Why am I working to the degree that I want? Why aren't my Facebook ads working when I've plowed a lot of investment into that? So it was challenging to grow through everything. And I guess what I want to share here is that in order to get any level of success, in order to get financial growth, there are a couple of things you need. I think you need to understand that work, that deep work matters because you are going to have those ups and those downs. Having accountability and commitment and a place where you are sharing what you're going through and what you are committed to achieving is really important. And for me, that became my mastermind and some very good entrepreneurial friends that I have. Group accountability really makes a difference. If I've said I'm going to go and do something, I'm going to get it done by the time I show up the following week. And the other thing is, sometimes when things don't work out for you, maybe there's a launch that doesn't work or doesn't get you the results that you wanted. Sometimes there is a learning that you have to take. And for me, that learning quite early on with those launches that didn't work so well was my frustration that my depth of knowledge and breadth of knowledge in the podcasting space wasn't being appreciated in a way that I was getting enough monetary gain from it, I guess. And so that was the nudge, really, that actually what I want to create is some high-end services so that we're over-delivering, we're serving a different kind of client, a different ideal client, without letting go or undervaluing the clients that we already have who are earlier on in their business and want to do it themselves rather than have us create a premium service. And allowing myself to notice what those things are coming up, then for me becomes a bed of creativity. And I think that once I've got all of those things in place and they're working and they're building, I'd actually created a business where actually I wasn't doing a lot. I wasn't doing a lot in my business beyond creating content, beyond the consultancy calls. And I'd kind of got to a point where I was almost twiddling my thumbs. And that's really where you see me recently go, actually, I'm not stepping into my full potential. There's something more I want to be doing. There's a different way I want to show up in the world. And how do I make that happen? And how do I do that fast? And so what I've done over the last few months was even less than that, the last 30 days, is create new avenues, new streams of what I'm bringing into the world, which excite me, which make me energized, and share the same message that the podcasting parts of my business too, that you can get results fast if you're seen and you're heard in all the right places. But I did just want to share that growing by 300%, going from a team of 1 occasionally, but just me really, to a team of 8 around the world with other freelancers too that drop by and help me out from time to time. Having built an agency with all the systems and processes behind the scenes, in fact, kind of 2 agencies because we've got the podcast booking service as well. Having done all of those things takes growth, it takes personal development, and it takes digging deep. And one of the most important things about that is surrounding yourself with the right kind of people. So I wanted to share this today because I think there's a tendency on social media for us to share the shiny penny. And I wanted you to hear from me exactly what it's taken for us to get to that point. I still feel that I'm right at the beginning. And I feel like that because there's so much more that I want to bring to the world. There's so much more I want to create. So many more people that I want to reach with this podcast that I do with Entrepreneurs Get Visible, with books that I want to write. And I am an eager student of the world. I am eager in the university of the world. And for me, the entrepreneurial journey really does accompany that motivational, inspirational journey. And I think that if I'd looked back 12 months ago, I would never have thought that my business would look like it does today. I knew I would grow. I knew I would have high levels of income. I knew I would have more people supporting me. But I couldn't know exactly what it was because I've allowed myself to stay in touch with that creativity and those nudges and those impulses and that growth, and working out what doesn't work for me any longer. What do I need to close down? What do I need to turn away from? And what do I need to do fast to make sure that I protect my own energy and my own ability to deliver? So I hope that that's been super useful for you. I'd love to hear from you if this has got you thinking or has got you inspired about what's possible for you. If you notice yourself coming up with those self-sabotaging blocks, I am very shortly interviewing Gay Hendricks, who is author of The Big Leap, who talks all about the upper limit and how as successful, ambitious people, we can then self-sabotage. And that's what it was for me with my headaches and my migraines. So that is it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know and reach out.
Thank you for listening to Entrepreneurs Get Visible. To get your free checklist on how to raise your profile and to find out about our community, go to annaparkernaples.co.uk/get visible.